Go ahead and create a new document, again a ActionScript 3.0, just a blank document, and again you'll notice I'm working in the small screen workspace so that I can make sure that you see everything. You can choose to go to this workspace by choosing the workspace switcher here at the top right and choosing small screen, or you can continue to work in the Essentials workspace. Okay, let's take a look at the difference between drawing in shape mode and drawing in the object drawing mode. So I'm going to click on my rectangle, and your settings over here in the properties panel may still be those settings that we used the last time in our last session. So go ahead and click the reset button, and what that will do is reset our rectangle options so that everything is zeroed out, and when we draw it looks like your typical rectangle. I'm going to just click and drag just like I did earlier, and with my selection tool by pressing the letter V, when I click on my rectangle, remember I see those little dots, which means I can click and drag and pull the fill color away from the stroke, and if I want to make sure they're both selected, I double click and then I have my stroke selected as well. Well, another option you have to draw with in Flash is to draw in object drawing mode, and we can see this down here with our modifiers down here at the bottom. Whoops, let me get a rectangle. Down here in the area at the bottom of our tools panel, we have extra options that come up. In this case, we have the option to turn on object drawing mode. So when I click on that, you'll see now that this object drawing mode is highlighted. It's a little circle with a square on it. When I draw now with the rectangle, let me click and drag. It's going to behave a little differently. So let me go ahead and get my selection tool. And now when I click on my rectangle, you'll see when I double clicked, I now went inside the drawing object. So now when I click on it, I'll see my dots. Let me go ahead and back up back to scene 1. So when I click on my rectangle one time and I click and drag, I'm selecting the whole thing. So it's drawing in a different manner. So now if I were to click and drag this on top of my other rectangle, you can see I didn't make any damage to the other rectangle. So let's go ahead and get our oval tool, and we're going to make sure this is turned off. You'll notice that I selected it for the rectangle, so now every time I draw with any of the shapes, that was automatically highlighted. But I want to turn it off so that we can see, and I'm going to click and drag and kind of overlap my rectangle. So now when I get my selection tool and I click on my circle and I pull it away, you can see I made a hole in that rectangle. But if I pull this circle down to my rectangle at the bottom that I drew with the other drawing mode, you'll notice that it does not make a hole in it, because when I click on it, it's one solid piece. So when you're drawing in the two different modes, again, you've got drawing mode and you've got object drawing mode, you'll notice that the object drawing mode, the shape is now all intact. We cannot click on it and pull out the middle. Everything gets selected at the same time. So the stroke and the fill will be selected on one click. Again, if I double click on it, and now I click on it one time, now I'm pulling the middle rectangle away from the stroke. Command C, Control Z to put that back. And we can see here at the top, I've now entered the drawing object by seeing this little breadcrumb here at the top of my workspace. I'm going to click on scene 1. That backs me out of my rectangle, and again, I'm back to where it's just in object drawing mode and I can select it. And you'll notice too on our properties panel, when I have my circle selected, which I drew in shape mode, you'll see in the properties panel where it says it's a shape. Same thing with my rectangle. And then my rectangle at the bottom that I drew with the object drawing mode, you'll see that it says it's a drawing object, which means if I want to make any edits to it, I will double click on it if I want to modify the shape. So let me go ahead and click my fill color. I had my rectangle selected, and I'm able to change my stroke and my fill. You can just pick two different colors to change it up a little bit. And you can see here, now that I've changed the color of my stroke, let me get a lighter color for that. When it's selected, we can see a bounding box around the rectangle showing us that it is selected. Let me click off of that. You'll see that it's gone. When I click back on it, you'll see that we do get a line. Up here, if I want to make any changes, I select it when I see the dots. Again, I can come in here, I can pick a different color, and it changes my fill color. So again, the big difference between merge drawing mode and object drawing mode is when I'm working in the regular standard drawing mode. Let me just grab the rectangle again. This is not selected. We always want to pay attention to that part of our tools panel to see what options are selected when we're working with it. When I draw my shape, it comes up. Let me get my selection tool. it comes up as a typical shape. And now if I click and drag this up here, and I click off of it, these two shapes are now merged. If I click and drag and pull away, you can see where it would make a hole in that other shape. So they actually start to merge together, and you need to be careful because you can lose part of your drawing. But again, that could also be a way to create something very interesting, like we did earlier when we put a star in the middle of our ball and we put a circle in the middle of our rectangle. There are times that you'll want to use that when you're wanting to get really creative with your drawing. But then if you're worried about overlapping things on the same layer, you might want to work with your drawing object mode so that you don't have to worry about these touching each other and causing damage to the other shape. So again, if I drag this over here, you can see now when I pull it away, maybe I want to put it back up here, I've created a curve from that shape I had earlier, but again, it did not affect the one that was drawn with the object mode.